Is there any village to the east of your village?
Taiwan, 2 or 3 leagues distance to the east.
In what direction and how far is the nearest market?
Dietian market is to the north.
And are there any mountains near your village?
Yes, there are mountains about 10 leagues from the village.
Well, is there anything further that you would like to state?
No.
Immigration officials compared the facts of Young Jung's testimony with a map created from his father's testimony, and that map is on the back of your handouts. In a letter written to the Chinese inspector in charge 6 days after Young Jung's testimony in the interrogation, the immigration inspector noted,
I note that there are no discrepancies. And in fact, I have never had a better case to examine. I recommend landing.
Young Jung was admitted to the United States the very next day, June 23rd, 1911. So that ends the story for Young Jung. And I just wanted to mention, you might have noticed that for strictly purposes of dramatic flow, we dispense with 2 major characters always present at the interrogation table, the stenographer and the interpreter, usually a Chinese person who understood the relevant dialect and translated back and forth between the immigrant and the always Anglo inspector. So we'll go on to our second piece, and our second piece is entitled Liang Shi and the Shadow of Suspicion. Liang Shi arrived at Angel Island on July 9, 1913, with her young son as the wife of San Francisco Chinese merchant Guan Kuokwa. She was returning to the U.S. after several years in China. Liang Shi was brought before the Angel Island immigration inspector the day after her arrival.
What is your name?
My name is Liang Shi,
Where were you born?
China.
What is your husband's name and age?
He's Quan Kwokwa, 51 years old.
And how many children have you ever had?
Only this one child. His name is Quan Hiu Tong, 5 years old, born in Cherkham village, Guangdong, China, in the first year of Emperor Sun Tao, 3rd month, 8th day.
Are you sure it was the 3rd month, 8th day?
Yes, I'm certain.
Your husband says it was the 2nd month, 8th day.
My husband is mistaken.
Where did you live in San Francisco before going to China?
A building on Jackson Street near Baker Alley. It's also known as Feng Ayi's building.
And how long did you live there?
I lived there up to the time I went to China, about 7 years. I also lived on DuPont Street near Jackson.
What is your husband's business?
He's a merchant in the firm of Fufeng, a liquor store at 742 Washington Street.
Have you ever heard of the Tai Sing building?
Yes,
Where is it?
it's on DuPont, but I don't remember what corner of DuPont Street.
Did you ever live in that building?
We lived there from 1898 for 2 years.
And then you moved to the building on DuPont near Jackson.
Yes, the Chinese call it the double stairway.
So how is it that you stated just a moment ago that you lived at DuPont and Jackson until you moved to the Bung Yi building?
I had forgotten that I lived in the Tai Sing building for 2 years.
You're dismissed.
The next day, Liang Shi's lawyers posted bond for her release. She left Angel Island, but she had not yet been officially admitted as a merchant's wife. The investigation continued.
Oh, August 7th, 1913. I am informed that applicant Lung Shi has been known as a procurer and as the keeper of houses of prostitution. I understand that the Chief of Police of Oakland can give information which will show that she was associated with her alleged husband, Kwan Kwok Wah, in that same business.
The husband, Kwan Kwok Wah, was then recalled to be re-examined at Angel Island.
So, what is your name?
Wang Kwok Wah.
You are appearing here again as a witness in the case of your alleged wife, Lung Shi, and your son. What further testimony do you have to offer?
I wish to correct a testimony I gave the other day relative to my residence before we left the United States for China. We used to live on Jackson Street. Shortly before we departed for China, we moved to Washington and DuPont, which is correct.
Have you anything further to state?
I want to correct another statement I made the other day. I said my boy was born the second month, 8th day. It should be third month, 8th day.
How did you happen to make that mistake?
Because lack of memory. You know, those birth dates are better remembered by the mother.
Have you ever been in trouble with the police? Were you not at one time under arrest, charged with the killing of another Chinaman?
Yes, but all the Chinese in Chinatown know about it, and they know that I was falsely accused.
Did you have a trial?
Yes, I did.
And at first you were convicted, weren't you?
Yes, but the second trial, it was dismissed.
Isn't it a fact that before your second trial came to pass, the papers in your case had been destroyed in the 1906 earthquake and fire, and that you had previously been sentenced to hang for that offense? Because of this destruction of your papers, you were afterwards set free.
That is not so. My attorney defended the case, the judge found that I was not guilty. It was a put-up job.
It appears that this woman, while operating a house of prostitution in San Francisco, was also known as Kim Yen. When this woman is brought to the San Francisco office of this service, I would also suggest that Miss Donaldina Cameron of the Presbyterian Mission in San Francisco be asked to be present for identification. A Mr. Rowe, a bartender, formerly a special police officer in Oakland, Chinatown, has told me this woman, Lung Shi, was a keeper of a house at 1 Jackson Alley in Oakland. The door of that house had a wicket on it. And you know that all houses of that kind have a wicket on the door. You know well what kind of houses I'm talking about without my telling you.
Liang Shi was called to Angel Island a third time on January 10th, 1914.
So, have you ever been known by the name of Kim Yen?
No.
When did you first arrive in the United States?
I came here when I was very small, about 4 or 5 years old, I think.
And did you follow any occupation after you became able to work?
I sewed for a living.